It's scary that someone in this town is killing our young men.
Murders that happen down there and they're never solved.
Everybody that they find down there, they find them in the woods.
They're happening back to back.
A lot going on in this town, but don't nobody talk about it.
But what if it was your kid? What if it was your grandson?
When you hear something like that in this area, you go, Lunenburg? Here?
The whole case is bizarre. I mean, I don't even know where you want to start at.
He got shot in the back, he got dismembered.
Both arms and both legs.
In a shallow grave, he had lye poured on top of him.
This is probably one of the worst homicides, not just in this county, but in the state of Virginia.
This should have not been his final resting place on the side of the road in the bushes, like he was nothing.
He was 19 years old, had been shot several times.
You know, I already knew when I opened the door and knew it was them that it was my son.
My son did not kill himself.
Why were there 6 people at the apartment complex and no one asked him questions?
6 people in the house.
Somebody knows something.
Why was his pockets rifled through?
His wallet, cell phone, nothing. Just tell me what happened to my son. That's all I want to know.
I want justice.
They got a whole lot of murders down there unsolved.
Somebody out there knows something.
The town is small.
It's too small not to know.
He's 17 years old, he didn't deserve this. He was still a kid trying to find his way.
I just want answers for my son. I want answers for my family. I wasn't ready for him to go.
That's my baby. My baby.
There's a dark cloud that's been hovering over this small Virginia town of about 12,000 people. And some folks are terrified at the storm that's brewing after a child's dismembered body was found along this isolated and narrow road.
We have been passing out flyers, just trying to get the word out because we really do feel like nothing is being done.
Should no family have to go through this?
There are thousands of cold cases in Virginia, and only 1% ever get solved.
I feel like nobody's looking for him. Like we're the only ones wondering where he's at, what happened.
They feel like their child or their loved one's just become a number.
And it's been 3 years and we probably will never find them. But we would like closure as to what happened to them.
Too often, the victims aren't heard. Their voices aren't carried.
These are the faces of loved ones who suffered some of the most violent crimes or disappeared without a trace. Their families are still waiting for answers. On this Crime Insider Reopen the Case documentary, we focused on 3 cases, all here in Lunenburg County. 3 young black males, all connected to Center Street. And during that investigation, we discovered 3 additional suspicious deaths. All 6 have surprising connections.
I miss everything about him, everything. I miss him a lot. It's a struggle on a day-to-day basis. You know, people say take it one day at a time. I actually take it 1 second at a time. Because I'm forced to just deal with it. But I still have to go on to get justice for him. And that's a promise. I wake up every morning and I make sure I tell him I'm sorry that this happened to you, but I will get justice for you.
Well, 17-year-old Sion Carroll went missing November 2nd of 2022. His body found in a shallow grave, dismembered about 10 days later, actually on this road you see here behind me.
Both arms and both legs. Both arms and both legs was dismembered. And he had a lot of chop wounds, I guess, from them trying to dismember him.
Sion Carroll was last seen at his grandmother's house near Center Street.
He was down there for like 4 months. Cause he was in some trouble up here, but they found out that he wasn't in. So they asked me, could I take custody of him to keep him from up here around all of this? So I agreed with the courts and got him down there. And he was doing fine. Just kept telling him stay from down there hanging with those guys and stuff. But
they had some sort of an argument earlier in the night about jackets that were on the floor.
Then about an hour later, he came in there. He was like, Grandma, I'm sorry. And he went on outside where he always go outside and walk around the yard smoking his black and mild because I wouldn't let him smoke in the house.
This was what time of night when you guys
It was about 9 or 10.
So by 1 a.m. was he outside or?
I don't know. I went to sleep. And when I got up that morning, I went back there in the room because I usually wake him up to get him ready, for to meet the van out there. And I said, well, maybe he already, went out there and caught the van. So I didn't think nothing else of it. So I went on, got ready, went to work, came back home. And I was like, he usually be in the house by the time I get off work. So I called the school and they said they hadn't seen him.
Grandfather Junius was very involved in Sion's life. They had a very good relationship.
The boys ran the store said that last time they seen Sion, he was at the shed with them boys. And then the shed burned up. Come on now, something wrong. And you could see the black ran the door, but the shed won't burn down. There was a fire on the inside of it.
It kind of ramped up a couple of days later when they put out information online that Sion's phone was pinging near a sex offender's house on Poorhouse Road.
One of the phones that he had was an iPhone, but it didn't have service. But it was my oldest son's old iPhone. And he did find my iPhone, and the phone pinged where it pinged to. I went there, nobody saw him, and then I started to receive messages stating that it was a tier 3 sex offender that lived at the home.
For months after Sion's body had already been found, the sex offender was actually scrubbed from the registry. And that meaning every time I looked on the sex offender registry for this sex offender, he was not there. He was not listed at that address that he was listed at, or was he in the system at all? And we've since learned that's not supposed to happen. I did go back and forth via email with the state police representative about the sex offender being off the registry. And after 2 or 3 emails, I finally got a response saying it's part of the investigation. They can't comment.
At the same time, it's another lady that lives not too far from that house told us that her daughter was sitting on her back porch and she heard somebody in the woods screaming for help. And she called the police and they never showed up. Did y'all hear that one? Y'all heard about that? Yeah. We also searched her property too, but it was just too much land.
The most mysterious thing in this case is how Sion was found.
The chief at that time, as he told me, just had a feeling. So I deem it by the grace of God, he happened to be in the 200 block here of Seaway and came upon this area. And once again, further investigation found it to be a clandestine grave.
In the dark, out of his jurisdiction, on a hunch, 3:30 in the morning, the woods behind me.
How he find it? How did he find it? He was the only one out there.
Just remembering some of the conversations that I had when I went there to meet with him. And every scenario he gave me that could have happened to my son had something to do with woods. Every scenario. He gave me 3 scenarios. One of them including, he takes medicine. So the medicine that he take, I went to class and I know that one of the meds that he take, he possibly could have went in the woods and committed suicide. You telling the mother that's looking for her son that he went in the woods and committed suicide?
A red flag went up. He resigned in the middle of an investigation in his town. In his town. That don't look good.
The whole damn case is bizarre. I mean, I don't even know where you want to start at. You know, one thing we learned after interviewing grandmother is when I asked her if I was the first media interview she had, she goes, media interview? You're the first interview I had, period. It is odd. Wait, you've never been interviewed by the special agent?
No.
So you never talked to Kevin Jordan?
No.
Interviews have been conducted in this investigation. Some individuals have been interviewed more than once. We've actually had people that have voluntarily provided information.
So investigators hadn't interrogated her, and mind you, she is the last person that saw Sion alive. Brandon Lee, he was there when family members were at the church at the corner of Center Street. It was said that he and Sion were pretty good friends, but since I've talked to Brandon's mother, she just says, you know, she doesn't know how close they were. They were definitely not blood-related relatives like we've been told before.
I spoke with Brandon, I think, maybe 2 or 3 times, and his wording and his body language was just really off to me. So I knew that he had known something, and it was almost pretty much like he really wanted to tell me, but he didn't, and he didn't know how.
Brandon carried me and my friend and another friend of ours down to Cowboy house. I told Brandon to tell Cowboy to come, I want to talk to him. He called Cowboy and said some people want to talk to you. And he came. And I got out and I walked around and I looked. I seen some down there were burning. They had been burning trash or something. He came out, went and I opened the hood, the thing on the back of the truck, and looking at it and seen the garden tools, all the garden tools.
And Junius says he doesn't think it's a coincidence that after he spoke to Cowboy, Cowboy was shot, and according to court documents we obtained, we found out that Cowboy was ambushed in a trailer he was staying in on Busy Lane.
Did Brandon help you guys search, or what was his involvement?
No, he wanted to help search, but when he seen all of us up there that Saturday, when we was getting ready to go do the search before they called tip to the office, to the police office, he said he got scared, he got paranoid, he didn't want to come up there to help. He said too many guys was up there.
It's been reported that one day after Sion's body was found, Brandon killed himself. Well, people living in that area said they heard the scanner, and they said someone on the scanner said they were behind Brandon Lee. He was running down Center Street, and that's when he ran into the woods past his house there and committed suicide. We looked for those radio transmissions, but we haven't been able to confirm that actually happened.
They said he left a note and said that he was going in the woods and go to sleep to protect his mom and dad. That's what they said was on the note, but I don't know for sure.
And if that's possible, I don't believe that he willingly committed suicide. That's just my take on it.
I want to talk to the town manager, I want to talk to the mayor and ask them what's going on down there. They, like you said, they have a lot of murders down there that haven't been solved. The same pattern. But this is the kicker, y'all. Why did Barnes tell my daughter and her aunt that Sion might have took them pills that he was taking and went in the woods and killed himself? Red flag, flag up, my ears up. Everybody that they find down there, they find them in the woods.
This should have not been his final resting place. You know, thrown on the side of the road in the bushes, like he was nothing. They didn't just take a son, it took a brother, they took a nephew, they took a grandchild. I just don't understand it. He was one of the sweetest kids that I knew.
Antonio Rich. He was 19 years old, had been shot several times. His body was discovered in a ditch on Moore's Ordinary Street in Kinbridge. So Antonio Rich and Brandon Lee were cousins. And like Sion with his grandmother and Brandon Lee, of course, Rich lived on Center Street at one point in his life.
No parent should have to come visit a child here, not under the circumstances. I found out that Friday. They found him on the 15th. I found out that Friday. The detective and the sheriff came and he knocked on the door. You know, I already knew when I opened the door and knew it was them, that it was my son. I can hear myself screaming, and when they told me it was him, my neighbors on the other street heard me screaming. Sheriff Townsend gave me his condolences, and he said, I'm so sorry, but it was Antonio. He said, and I couldn't tell you. He said, because he didn't have a positive ID on him. He said, so we had to send him off to the medical examiner to get a positive ID. That was the only time that I talked to the sheriff department, because, of course, the detective that was there was from the state troopers.
When we asked Agent George specifically about this case, he said he didn't have permission of the family to talk about it.
From what I was told, 5 gunshot wounds. He died from the gunshot wounds. I'm assuming the torso, because they had him wrapped up in plastic. And I know my son's hand, his right hand was smashed. You could tell that he fought back. He had a scratch mark, and I think like a little chunk of his ear was gone. And when you think it's a small town, you would think that the case would have got solved a little bit faster. Because it's somebody that knows my child personally, I don't think it was a stranger to him. I think it was somebody that he knew.
So during the Antonio Rich investigation, we realized that some of the names from the Sion Carroll case, that circle of friends, they were also coming up in Antonio's case. So I asked Special Agent Kevin George with the state police if he believed these two cases were connected.
The 2020 homicide that I'm investigating and the 2022 homicide involving Sion Carroll, I have yet to find any connection to those homicides.
Sometimes I just think, was he dead when they dropped him off? Was he suffering? If somebody would have found him in time, could they have saved him? Somebody out there knows something. I understand that people don't want to go to the police, but I'm his mother. Come to me. I just want to know why, and I want to know who. Somebody deserves to be behind bars for this. He had so much life left in him, and I'll never know. I'll never know what would have became of his life, and I have to live with that.
Center Street was just a love little spot. We call it the bottom. We came from the bottom, then we at the top. It's just like, it was just so calm and cool down there. Like growing up as a kid, my mom's house right here, my cousin's house, my other cousin's house, aunt house, great aunt, uncle, whatever we were doing as kids, it won't never like dangerous or we had to look over our shoulder or scare anything. Like, it was just so like, it was a good community. I just feel like it's a ghost town, it's like it's quiet.
Carlton Craig lost his life in Victoria, Virginia, not too far from here, September 24th of 2023.
Medic 2 wants to request an ALS for a suicide attempt. Call advised the subject is breathing, shot himself in the head. They advised that they're applying pressure now.
The 911 call for Carlton Craig came in as a suicide, but when deputies arrived on scene, they had 6 people inside the apartment, and of course Carlton was dead, and someone had apparently rifled through his pockets.
I had got a phone call at 5:30 that morning from a neighbor that lived under the apartment that he was found in. From what I got, he was fighting in the parking lot. So I don't know if he was fighting in the parking lot and he ran in the house. He had just got his driver's license.
But it wasn't at the scene?
Nothing. His wallet, cell phone, nothing.
I tried to find me app to track the phone, didn't go off anything. I tried to call it and call it and call it. It's just, I don't know, if he in somebody's apartment and they know him and know you and our family and they proclaim somebody after him, why not be like, we're gonna take care of this?
Or help him.
Or we're gonna help you, we're gonna get you out of here, or we're gonna find out who's after you. We're
She
call
said
the cops.
she went and told the manager at the Village Estate that somebody was holding them hostage and shot a young man. If somebody holding you hostage, somebody else shot besides me, ain't it?
family members telling us when they, the deputies went to investigate, the scene wasn't roped off like normal major crimes would be roped off. There were people walking in and out of the apartment. So if there was any option for tainted evidence, it was there because the family said they were walking in and out freely.
I found my son's hoodie at somebody else's house, washed, soaking wet when I got it back.
The same exact hoodie he had on when he murdered his wife.
Yeah, when he was supposed to commit suicide.
Just ruled it as a suicide and cleaned him up. Well, picked him up and put him in a damn body bag. Excuse my language. And just told everybody, let's back to normal. Blood up in the apartment. I had to see my mom clean my brother brain off to the floor, man. It's all right though. Just really getting to the details. There's so many facts and pieces to the puzzle. I just feel like it's not all put together. And I want justice, one way or another. That's why I'm talking and making phone calls and trying to get to the bottom of it. That way I can help out as best way as possible with this and everything else going on. But this right here is my main concern. This is my little brother. So I feel like I just need a little more help with the sheriff and anybody else that got questions, people that was in the apartment, people that he called that night, people that seen him the night before or prior that night. I just want a little more than what I got right now. So that's all I'm asking for.
It'll never be no justice. Just tell me, how could you kill my son?
He's my son. He's my great nephew. I got him when he's 3, and that's where he's been. So I said, my son. He said, mama. So he knew his mother, but when you raise someone, they call you what they call you. So I was his mama.
Kenyelle Lee is also Brandon Lee's cousin. He went missing April 16th of 2021.
He come in the driveway with some girl, come up to the house, switch clothes, left. And that's the last time I seen him. I did not think that would be the last time I see him, but it was.
We also spoke with his biological mother.
And that would hurt because I missed so much out of his life. And when we started getting a relationship together, I didn't think that the last time I would hear from him, for me to come pick him up, and that would hurt because I wasn't able to do that. When he really needed me, the one time that he needed me, I couldn't save him because he didn't tell me where he was at.
24th of April was my other son's birthday. He don't miss calling him. They were real tight. It was Trav's birthday, and he would always call him, but he didn't. Then we had a call that on the 28th, someone called an ambulance and said he had a seizure in front of the Wedgwood Motel. But he refused to go to the hospital. Nobody heard anything since. Nobody saw him.
At one point during the interview, Alicia went over some rumors that she had heard what happened to her son.
They had put him in a wood chatter. I heard that. They threw his body in between a creek, in between Blackstone and Kimbridge. That he was supposed to be in somebody's trailer. I mean, the trailers that you drive on the trucks. He was supposed to be in one of those. Those were the rumors that I heard.
What are you thinking about?
I don't like to hear her say. He's put in a shredder.
The officer came to me and told me that my son was deceased. He said, I can tell you that your son is deceased, and there's 2 particular people in Lunenburg County that knows what happens to your son. He said, I will give you further details when I find out more. That was the last time I heard from that officer. That was about 2 years ago.
I don't accept that. I never will until I have proof that he's gone. I still look for him to come through the door. I feel like nobody's looking for him. Like we're the only ones wondering where he's at, what happened. I don't feel like he just walked off because he would not do that. He's been a traveler, but he will always let me know where he's at. He never missed a birthday. He never missed Mother's Day. He's gonna call me. I'm gonna know where he's at, but I don't. And it's just, you can't just vanish like that. I believe he's out there somewhere.
The sad truth is that victims of crime don't have power and they don't have influence. Our criminal justice system is set up now, providing more rights and protections and services to the defendants than to the victims. They aren't aware of what services they provide. They aren't aware that it is in our state's code. It is part of our laws that victims get these services.
No, they don't have anything like that around here. Only place you can't go is to the police, and they could care less.
When we don't have enough advocates, crime rates surge. People aren't going to reach out for help when they know it's not there.
There's no cry that is quite like the anguish of a cry of a mother that has lost a child. They lose the loved one, and then suddenly they feel like their child that had brought so much joy to their life that has been ripped from them is just a number, and it's just a statistic. That is not just a number to that mom or that dad.
They didn't just take a son, they took a brother, they took a nephew, they took a grandchild.
We have an entire division in our office, we actually helped create it, called Special Investigation in Cold Cases. Part of the reasons why I even ran for this job is I felt like I needed to be the voice for the victims.
Sometimes you just feel so frustrated that you feel like you're not being heard. And quite frankly, I feel like I'm not being heard when I ask them about Kenya. It's like, nobody cares but us.
We've actually asked for expansive authority to be able to go into some of these localities.
Well, it seems like the Attorney General has tried before to get legislation passed. So on some of these cases that are in the outlying areas where they don't have the resources that like a Richmond City or Petersburg City has, well then the Attorney General can step in and help bridge that gap and help solve some of these cases.
So far it's gotten out of the Virginia House, but keeps dying in the state Senate.
It seems like the state Senate, there is a need for this. I mean, obviously there are cases that are backlogged and aren't going anywhere because people don't want to play ball.
I have a sneaky suspicion that unfortunately partisan politics may have something to do with this. I think they do not want to.
But that's not what this is. This is family.
I agree with you. This is about victims. This is being a second chance for those victims, giving a voice for them when they feel like they have no voice. But right now, unfortunately, this legislation keeps getting stymied in the General Assembly.
I think where some of the problem lies in this jurisdiction is these cases are punted from one investigating agency to another investigating agency. On several occasions, the can has been kicked down the road. It starts with Cambridge Police, and then it goes to State Police. They ask Lunenburg to get involved. Lunenburg says, no, it has to be the State Police. All of that leaving behind a trail of frustration for these families because a lot of them feel like they're being victimized all over again because no one's paying attention or listening to what they're saying about their loved one.
Victoria and Cambridge, because his murders happened in Cambridge and Victoria. So Lunenburg being the county, I feel like they need to come together and do whatever they gotta do.
But they ain't doing it, they ain't finding none.
They didn't communicate with us at all.
If it were up to me, we would add teeth to the Victims' Bill of Rights in Virginia. Right now, there's nothing stopping anyone from law enforcement, prosecutor, judges, even advocates from violating a victim's rights.
I just want answers. I really do want answers.
And I'm gonna continue keeping his name alive until I get justice. And after justice, I'm gonna keep his name alive because justice will be served.
It's very overwhelming, but I won't stop.
One thing for sure, whoever did it, God gonna take care of that.
So they say what happens in a small town stays in a small town. It's not really holding true for Lunenburg County. This is a community crying out for help. And as the tips keep rolling in, we will update you. If you have information that can help solve these murders, you're asked to call 833-RTCF-NVA or email tips@reopenthecase.org.